Chapter 13 Swindle's House, 531 Park Avenue, Extension. 1. Two-story home, steep pitched roof. 2. Chain link fence, even higher than its door. Why me? 3. No neighbor in back, town water tower. 4. Private property, signs, there are 2. 5. No trespassing, signs, there are 3. 6. Keep out signs, there are 4. 7. Beware of dog signs, 6. Swindle sure loves signs, Ben observed nervously. He loves chasing people away, Griffin amended. He frowned at a sticker on one of the door side lights. These premises protected by an Ultratech Sentry Max security system with wireless radio transmitter for instant police alerts. Great, he muttered. Another alarm. And this one looks like something out of a James Bond movie, Ben added. His eyes fell on a dog dish on the stoop and a leash handle wrapped around the wrought iron railing. Heart sinking, he tracked the leather leash through the bushes and around the side of the house. The taut line went suddenly slack. Uh-oh. Ben was already in motion before they heard the first bark. He grabbed a bewildered Griffin and began dragging him across the lawn. Luther exploded from behind the house in a pose that had become all too familiar, a ravenous predator in pursuit of prey. "The road!" Griffin rasped. The two flung themselves over the curb a split second before Luther ran out of a leash and was yanked back by his collar. A motorcycle swerved to avoid the boys as they pounded across the street. The Doberman twisted and writhed, howling its outrage. "I guess we'd better tell Savannah that her dog whispering is only temporary," Ben panted. A slow chuckle mingled with Luther's angry braying. Griffin turned to notice an elderly neighbor in a rocking chair on the porch of number 530. The man was peering at them over his reading glasses with great interest. "Haven't seen you two around before. New in town?" Griffin hesitated. It would be risky to say yes. Just because he didn't recognize the old guy didn't mean he might not be a friend of Griffin's family. Cedarville was, after all, a fairly small community. "We're experimenting with some new ways from home from school," he replied. "Bully problems." The man's face darkened. "Kids today, you wouldn't believe the things I see just sitting in this very chair." Griffin swallowed hard. The chair was perfectly positioned to watch the neighborhood in both directions. The Palomino front door was dead ahead across the street. "Spend a lot of time out here?" he asked faintly. "Every waking minute," the man said cheerfully. "I've worked 43 years down in the coal mines. In my book, a second out of the fresh air is a second wasted." "Even in bad weather?" Ben ventured. "I dress for it. Rain or shine, hot or cold, Eli Mulroney is right here." "Well, except at mealtimes," Griffin prompted. "Well, that's what a microwave is for," Mr. Mulroney said agreeably. "So I don't have to waste time cooking. Got no TV and no computer. Plenty of top-notch entertainment right out here. Like watching you two hoof-footing it across the road with Luther on your tail." He treated himself to a good laugh. "You think you were better off with the bullies. At least they don't bite." Griffin and Ben tried to laugh with him. "What kind of people have a dog like that?" Griffin complained. "Doesn't it, attack the mailman or bite the kids?" "Ha! If there's anyone nastier than a dog, it's the fine fellow who owns it. He lives solo. Who'd bunk with a creep like that?" "But Luther's not around much." "Palomine usually has a critter on guard duty at his store. Wonder why the monster's here all of a sudden. Probably ate a few customers in the shop." Griffin felt some small measure of satisfaction. Eli Mulroney may have been the unofficial CIA of Park Avenue Extension, but the old man still didn't know the real reason Swindle had moved Luther from store to home. Griffin was sure of it. The safe was there, with the card inside it. He grimaced. Bad enough Swindle was a security freak with an attack dog and alarm system that had everything short of laser cannons. How were they supposed to pull off a heist under the nose of a full-time neighborhood spy? www.ultratech.USA, military caliber security for your home. Griffin leaned back from the computer screen, whistling nervously through his teeth. How bad? Asked Ben. They were in the school library researching Swindle Palomino's security system, hoping to find a way to beat it. You know what the Ultratech company is? Griffin groaned. They take the alarms the Navy used to put in dry-docked submarines and install them in people's houses. Leave it to Swindle. Ben peered over his shoulder at the screen. It says their sirens are 175 decibels louder than revving jet engines. That means if we set it off, half the town will come running, including the police and my mother. Doesn't matter, Griffin told him. We're not going to set it off. I wonder if his code is the same as the one at the store. That wouldn't help us, Ben pointed out. Read this part. The e-alert feature. Every time the alarm is deactivated, the system automatically sends a message to your cell phone. So if we turn off his alarm, Swindle will be the first to know. And on top of it all, we've got Eli Mulroney, who came up out of the coal mine just to make our lives complicated, said Griffin. He spends 25 hours a day staring at the very house we have to break into. He doesn't seem to like Swindle any more than we do, Ben mused. Maybe we should just explain what we're doing. Griffin was horrified. Are you crazy? I want your promise right now that you won't tell anybody, and I mean anybody. We told Savannah, Ben reminded him, and we still need her to get us past Luther. Don't ask how that's going to happen. She hates our guts. Griffin nodded slowly. We could do with some help, and not just for the dog, but we can't know exactly who to recruit until we have a plan, and even having a plan seems pretty far away at this point. It's better not to be too far away. The auction's in 8 days. Sorry, guys. We'll make it work, Griffin promised grimly. It's more complicated than the store, but you tackle every problem one at a time. The neighbor, the dog, the alarm, the break-in, the safe. The what? Mr. Martinez appeared from behind a shelving cart. The alarm, the break-in, the safe? Griffin, Ben, if I didn't know better, I swear you're planning a burglary. Griffin was appalled. On top of everything else they were facing, how could they be so careless as to spill the beans in front of their teacher? He looked at Ben and instantly knew there was going to be no assistance from that quarter. His best friend was paralyzed. You're right, Mr. Martinez, Griffin managed finally. We are planning a burglary. At least Ben is. Ben cast a look of pure torment. Griffin forged on. For creative writing, Ben got this great idea to write about a big robbery, and in order to write it, you have to plan it like it's real. Mr. Martinez broke into a delighted smile. I think that's fantastic. What's being stolen, Ben? A diamond necklace? Ben croaked. That explains the safe, said the teacher. How about the house you have to break into? I haven't really figured it out yet, Ben offered faintly. That's part of the writer's craft, the teacher enthused. You design the house to fit what you want to happen in the story. I have an idea. Go to the town hall. The building department has architectural drawings for every house in Cedarville. That should help your imagination take off. It might not have helped Ben, but it did wonders for Griffin. If the building department had a floor plan for every house in town, that meant there would be one on file for 531 Park Avenue Extension, and seeing that layout might show them the way in. Chapter 14. Mrs. Annabelle Abernathy, the building department clerk at Cedarville Town Hall, loved her files and treated them as if they were her children. So when two 11-year-olds asked to see the original blueprints to 531 Park Avenue Extension, she was reluctant to hand them over. What do you want it for? She asked dubiously. Well, it's a project for school, Griffin replied, pleased that it was only half of a lie, thanks to Mr. Martinez. Town history, that kind of thing. Our job is to get a floor plan of a house built in the 20s or 30s. Well, all right, she said grudgingly, but you have to go and wash your hands. Man, I am insulted, Ben complained as the two stood in the men's room scrubbing. Does she think we crawled here through the sewers? It's the skate park thing all over again. Griffin muttered. They treat kids like garbage in this place. If we can manage to photocopy those plans without drooling on them, she'll consider it a miracle. Just keep your cool. The last thing we need is for her to start asking too many questions. Back at the desk, there was good news and then the bad news. I couldn't find 531 Park Avenue Extension, Mrs. Abernathy explained, so I brought you the blueprints for 1414 Lakewood Road. She held up a cautionary finger when both boys opened their mouths to protest. Hear me out. You're studying town history, and this is a part of it. Between 1925 and 1927, a builder named Gunhold put up 6 homes in Cedarville, all exactly alike. One was 531 Park Extension, another is 1414 Lakewood. So this is the blueprint for the house you're asking about, since the plans are exactly the same. Under Mrs. Abernathy's watchful eye, Griffin and Ben photocopied the drawings and left the town hall. Seconds later, the papers were spread out on a park bench as the boys tried to make sense of them. Who can read these things? Griffin wondered aloud. Where's the back door? Maybe we could get in that way. Where's Mr. Mulroney? Where Mr. Mulroney can't see us? Ben squinted at the main floor layout. I think it's a side door. There's nothing in the back. It's a solid line. Anyway, all the doors and windows will be covered by the alarm. Griffin stared at the plans until he felt his eyes crossing. If I ever say I want to become an architect, hit me with a shovel. I can't get a sense of the house from this. We're going to have to see the real thing. Oh, sure, Ben said sarcastically. Swindle's going to invite us in for the grand tour. Oh, probably not, Griffin agreed. But the people at 1414 Lakewood might. Why would they? Griffin grinned. Let's go over to Burger King and pick up some ketchup packets. I'll explain on the way. When the lady of the house opened the door of 1414 Lakewood Road, the sight that met her eyes told a chilling story. 2 boys stood on her front porch, the smaller of them dripping blood from a badly scraped arm. As usual, Griffin did the talking. My friend fell off his bike. Can we please come in and use the phone to call his mother? Of course, she exclaimed. But first we need to wash that arm so it doesn't get infected. Come with me. Thank you, Ben whimpered. He hoped she attributed the weakness in his voice to the shock, rather than fear their hostess might clue in that the blood on his arm was really meant to be dolloped on French fries. The woman hustled him up a flight of stairs and into a small white tile bathroom. Wash your arm with soap, she instructed, rummaging in a drawer for antiseptic and bandages. I'll wait down here, Griffin called from below. He was already busily scouting the rooms and hallways, looking for an entry point from the outside. He felt a shiver of excitement as he looked around. Yes, he knew this wasn't really Swindle's house, yet he knew it was the exact replica. This was like being behind enemy lines. The heist was almost underway. He unfolded the blueprint of the first floor, matching up walls and doorways. Front door, side door. Some of these windows would be big enough to crawl through. But what about the alarm? Wait a minute. The basement. He found the entrance and flitted silently down the cellar steps. The windowless basement was entirely underground with no access to the outside. Another dead end. In the second-story bathroom, Ben had finished washing the ketchup off his arm. It was a good thing he had the wipeout in front of the Bing's for sale sign, he reflected. The scrapes were legitimate, even if the blood wasn't. See, said the woman, spreading ointment on his skin. It's already starting to scab over. You're a fast healer. Thanks, he mumbled. Sorry to bother you. His mind was downstairs with Griffin. Had his friend made a breakthrough? Had he discovered a way into this house? Swindle's house? Really? It wouldn't set off the alarm? Suddenly, the sun burst from behind a cloud, and a beam of light shot straight from the heavens to illuminate the white gauze that wrapped Ben's elbow. Sunlight? But this bathroom had no windows. Bewildered, he looked straight up, and there it was. The room was taller than it was wide, with a cathedral ceiling that followed the slope of the roof outside. Dead center was a heavy glass skylight. That's nice, he croaked, pointing skyward. Is it a window, too? I mean, does it open? It did, she replied. We had a special pole to pop it up. But the pole broke years ago, and they don't make replacements anymore. She finished bandaging his arm. Now, let's go down and phone your mom. You know what? I don't want to scare her. I'll just ride home. I'm feeling a lot better. And he was, but it had nothing to do with his arm. He had found a way in. Chapter 15. Antonio Pitch. Benson opened her locker and shrugged out of her backpack. She was in the process of stowing it on her shelf when the words jumped out at her. Top secret. At the base of the narrow space, sitting on her gym shorts, was a printed note on bright green paper, folded twice. She opened it up and began to read. You have been chosen for your special skills to do something that urgently needs to be done. To learn more, come to the ballroom at 3:30. Don't miss this. It will be worth your while. $signs. What's that? She wheeled around to see Darren Vader, craning his neck to read over her shoulder. Mind your own business, she barked angrily. Snapping the note out of his view, she refolded the paper and pocketed it. Now, what could that be about? Someone had obviously slipped it through the vents in her locked door. But who? And why her? And her only talent was rock climbing, and there weren't any mountains or crags near Cedarville. The whole thing was probably just a joke, and if Darren was behind it, she would be expressing her displeasure with her fists. She slammed her locker shut. Whatever it was, she'd know at 3:30. Dad, this athlete's footage is driving me crazy. Isn't there anything we can do? Logan Kellerman had never been so well prepared for an audition. He had rehearsed his lines so many times that he knew it inside out. He understood every subtle shade of it, especially his character's motivation. He was someone who didn't want to be itchy anymore, and who knew his father loved him enough to buy an exciting new product to make him feel better. The role had become so much a part of him that sometimes he could actually feel the prickling the director of that commercial could overlook in his performance. No way in the world. Dad, this athlete's footage. He was halfway through his speech again when he noticed a green piece of paper at the bottom of his locker. You have been chosen for your special skills. Special skills? Logan's heart beat faster. This could only be about some kind of acting job. The ballroom at 3:30. He could hardly wait. Melissa Dukakis wasn't sure what to make of the folded green invitation. She had never been invited to anything before. Special skills? What could that mean? She was a C student who didn't know a lot of people and kept to herself. Maybe this was a mistake. The wrong locker, or maybe the wrong Melissa. There were several others in the school. That must be it, a mistake. She would go at 3:30 just to explain the mix-up. The green top-secret note crumpled in her pocket. Savannah Drysdale stormed past the gym. She'd been halfway home before she changed her mind about this meeting. Why lose sleep wondering what all the secrecy was about? As if she already didn't know. Griffin Bing and his sawed-off sidekick. The ballroom was actually a storage area by the gym. It was piled high with dead tennis balls, shattered ping-pong balls, ripped baseballs, cracked golf balls, squashed soccer balls, leaky footballs, and basketballs, lopsided medicine balls, untethered tether balls, and balls from sports that no one ever played. Bocce balls, water polo balls, rugger balls, and even a few that no one could identify. Coach Nimitz could not bring himself to throw a ball away and truly believed that one day he would find the right pump or patch. Then all of this equipment could be used to promote physical fitness for children. It was in this rubber and horsehide graveyard that Savannah found the meeting already in progress. Along with Griffin and Ben, she was surprised to see Pitch, Logan, and Melissa lounging on the soft piles of phys ed cast-offs. You two? Savannah spat. I knew it! This is about your stupid baseball card, isn't it? You were right to be angry before, Griffin told her seriously. We should have been honest with you from the very beginning. We won't make that mistake again. Pitch was bewildered. What baseball card? Before we go any further, Griffin said solemnly, I need your word that what's said in this room stays in this room. In or out, you can't tell anybody about this. Ever. This is no kid's game. There's serious stuff on the line, serious money, but also serious trouble. If anything goes wrong, if you don't think you can handle it, there's the door. Nobody moved, not even Savannah, who knew what was coming. Pitch spoke up. All right, Griffin, you've got our attention. What's this about? A Babe Ruth card from 1920, the kind collectors pay big bucks for. Griffin gave them the whole story, from the discovery in the old Rockford house to Swindle's deceitful flim-flam and the unsuccessful break-in at the store. So, it's about the money, but not just the money, he concluded. Swindle saw a couple of kids, and he took advantage of us because he didn't think we could do anything about it. We're going to show him he was wrong. Logan cleared his throat. How much money are we talking about? Equal shares, split 6 ways, Griffin replied. We can't know the total amount because it's being sold at an auction, but the rock-bottom starting bid is $200,000. And Swindle told the TV news he thought it could go for over $1 million. $1 million? Melissa performed the calculation at lightning speed in her head. That's $167,666 each. I could buy a state-of-the-art computer. And build a new wing on your house to keep it in, Ben added. I could afford acting lessons from Sanjay Jetwani, said Logan dreamingly. I could take my family climbing at Yosemite, exclaimed Pitch in awe. Savannah was not as easily impressed. Yeah, it's a lot of money. I'd love to grow up knowing that I've got enough in the bank to pay my way through veterinary school. Who wouldn't? But that kind of cash doesn't come easy. You're talking about a robbery, not a Sunday picnic. You're right, said Griffin. Still, if we all work together, we can pull it off. We break into Swindle's house through the skylight on the roof. Pitch, there's where you come in. Your job is to get us there. Like climbing on a building instead of a mountain, she mused. The house has an alarm system, but the motion sensors will be off. We know this because Swindle has a guard dog that sleeps in the house. The dog's no joke, but Savannah can handle him. Deep down, he's a real sweetheart, Savannah said fondly. Melissa shook her head, clearing the veil of her hair away from her face. So my role is to get to the panel and disarm the alarm? Pitch regarded her in amazement. You can do that? Ben shook his head. Doesn't matter. That's the last thing we want to do. If anyone shuts down the system, Swindle gets notified by e-alert. Melissa frowned. So what do you need me for? You know more about computers than anybody else in this town, Griffin replied. Can you hack into Swindle's email? Probably, but what for? We need to find a time when he's going to be out of the house for a few hours. We can't have him busting in on us when we're stealing our card back. Logan was confused. Where do I fit into all this? I'm an actor, not a burglar. Swindle lives across the street from the great-granddaddy of all nosy neighbors, Griffin replied. His name is Eli Mulroney, and he has the whole block under surveillance, 24/7. His chair is pointed right at Swindle's front door. We need you to focus your acting skills on making friends with this guy so you can distract him during the operation, and you'll be a lookout at the same time. Griffin got up from the flattened exercise ball he had been using as a beanbag chair. I know it sounds crazy, and I know it sounds dangerous, but if you break down into everybody doing their job, you'll see that no single part is impossible. We just have to put all the pieces together in the right order. We can do this. Now, who's aboard? Who's on board? Chapter 16. The silence was ear-splitting. Finally, Pitch spoke up. Count me in. Somebody's got to teach this creep a lesson. Logan was next. Me too. It's the ultimate challenge for an actor. Easy for you to say, muttered Savannah. You'll be safe and sound across the street. If the cops come, you can tell them you've never seen us before in your life. It may be a break-in, but it isn't stealing, Griffin reminded them. That card is ours. If any stealing happened, it was Swindle who did it. Sure, Savannah said sarcastically. That's the first thing that pops into a policeman's mind when he catches you blowtorching a safe. If you don't make the payments on your car, Griffin argued, they send a guy to repossess it. He steals it just like any car thief would, but it's perfectly legal. That's exactly what we're doing, repossessing a baseball card. Melissa spoke up. I thought that your note was in my locker by mistake, but I guess you guys really did want me. Well, of course we did, Ben assured her. But are you in or out? Oh, I'm in, she confirmed. It's the first time anybody's ever asked me to do anything. Savannah was the picture of outrage. I would have bet 5 of those Babe Ruth cards that you guys were going to stand up and tell these 2 maniacs to stuff it. What's the matter with you people? Griffin regarded her intently. It all comes down to you, Savannah. Yeah, right, like I've got a choice, she raged. You fixed it so I have to go along, just to protect poor Luther. Ben couldn't believe his ears. Poor Luther? I can picture exactly how it'll play out. You're going to bumble around that house until he's got no choice but to bite one of you. Then the ASPCA is going to want to put him down because he's vicious. Well, he's not. That's why I'm going to be there every step of the way, to make sure nothing happens to Luther. It's a go then, Griffin announced. The auction is on October 17th. That gives us 5 days to make our move. I don't have to tell you that total secrecy is a must. You can't talk to anybody about this, no matter how good you think they are at keeping secrets. No best friends, no favorite grandmothers, no personal life coaches, not even your pen pal who lives in Hong Kong. No one else can find out about this. On that note, a pile of flattened volleyballs sneezed. Bless you, Ben said automatically. Then, hey! Balls began tumbling in all directions as the mountain moved. A head broke through the surface of the rock slide as Darren Vader got to his feet. How much did you hear? Griffin demanded. All of it, Darren replied cheerfully. That's quite a plan you've got there, Bing. When the funeral home starts burying people in Ziploc bags, I'll know some of you fell off the roof. If you breathe a word of this... Take it easy, Shorty, Darren interrupted. I don't want to rat you out. I want a piece of the action. What are you talking about? Griffin snapped. A piece of what action? I want in on the heist. No way, Griffin rolled. We picked the team to fit the plan. If we suddenly had an opening for an obnoxious big mouth, you'll be the first person we call. You need me, Darren argued. You've got a climber, an actor, a computer geek, and a dog handler, but you're missing one thing. Muscle. A baseball card isn't very heavy, Ben said evenly. But people are, especially if you have to lower them by ropes or pull them up again through a skylight, let's say. I don't care how strong you are, Griffin seethed. You don't call the shots. There are 6 of us and only one of you. Fine, but if I have to walk out of here, I'm going straight to Mr. Palomino. Griffin stared at him, his eyes twin lasers. You wouldn't dare. Darren seemed surprised. It wouldn't take much daring from me. You're the ones who are going to get into a ton of trouble. Griffin read Darren's mocking expression and knew that the threat was very real. Darren had been his nemesis since kindergarten. He wouldn't hesitate to sell them out. It had all come down to either or. Either let Darren in or give up the plan altogether. He looked from face to face at Ben and then the team. One at a time, they nodded. Pitch was last. It can't hurt to have a musclehead around. Darren beamed. You won't regret this. Griffin regretted it already. Chapter 17. The next day, Logan Kellerman started up the walk at 530 Park Avenue Extension, a package under his arm. Eli Mulroney was sitting on his porch just as Griffin and Ben had been certain he'd be. He's always there, Griffin had said. We passed by that place a dozen different times. He might as well be a pink flamingo on the lawn. What can I do for you, son? Logan beamed at the old man. I live at 530 University, and this parcel was delivered to our house by mistake. Are you, he consulted the label, E. Mulroney? That's my name, but I'm not expecting any packages. Logan stepped onto the porch and showed the man the label, fresh from the printer of Melissa's computer. Mr. Mulroney looked bewildered. Well, that's me, all right. Who's it from? Logan shrugged. It doesn't say. Maybe there's a card inside. The old man produced a lethal-looking pocket knife and neatly slit the taped sides of the carton. Several hundred styrofoam peanuts scattered across the porch. God bless America! He roared at the mess. Then he pulled out a magnetic chess, checkers, and backgammon set, a box of dominoes, a deck of cards, and a Monopoly game. No? Asked Logan. I'm not reaching in there. Those fool peanuts stick to your hand and you can't shake 'em off. Well, it must be from someone who knows you like games, Logan persisted. I hate games, Mulroney snapped. Although, his eyes gleamed, I used to be a real whiz at backgammon. Of course, that was a long time ago. Logan sensed the opening and went for it. I always wanted to play backgammon. Would you teach me? If you have time? The old man raised an eyebrow. Doesn't a kid like you have something better to do than pal around with an old geezer? This is it, thought Logan. Time for his talent to shine. He cultivated a wan look that was part shy and part sad. Not really. We just moved here. I haven't made any friends yet. Pull up a chair, son. What's your name? Logan's heart was pounding. His first real big acting job, and this one could bring him the biggest paycheck this side of Hollywood. That night, the heist team gathered in the Bing's garage for the unveiling of Griffin's new plan. The smart pick leaned against the wall, standing like sentry over the crowded workbench, the nerve center of the operation. The Great Baseball Card Heist, Round 2, the team. 1. Griffin Bing, team leader and blowtorch operator. 2. Ben Slovak, lieutenant and tight spaces specialist. 3. Savannah Drysdale, dog whisperer. 4. Logan Kellerman, nosy neighbor, neutralizer, and lookout number 1. 5. Antonia Pitch Benson, second-story woman. 6. Melissa Dukakis, electronics and lookout number 2. 7. Darren Vader, muscle and miscellaneous. Rendezvous point, water tower, entry point, skylight. Okay, Griffin turned to Pitch. How do we get in? We're going to need a 24-foot extension ladder, she replied. That'll get us to the edge of the roof. She produced a photograph of the rear of the Palomino house. See that vent pipe? We'll loop a rope around it, then we can climb up over to the skylight, which is right here, she pointed, just below the peak on the east side. Sounds simple enough, said Griffin. If you're a mountain goat, Ben added nervously. It's not as scary as you think, Pinch assured him. We're climbing harnesses up on the roof. Even if you fall, you don't fall. I'll run you guys through a quick mountaineering 101 before we go. But that's just to get you used to the equipment. There's no real danger. Right, Griffin approved. Okay, Logan, you're next. How's it going with Mr. Mulroney? Logan was his usual modest self. If they gave Academy Awards for heist, I'd walk away with all the hardware. I have created a role so real, so three-dimensional, so heartwarming. Just spit it out, Darren demanded impatiently. He's teaching me to play backgammon, but it's so much more. I've truly become this character. I should hope so, said Griffin. It's you. You're playing yourself, and the whole point is to make sure the old guy doesn't get a whiff of what we're doing and call the cops. Now, what's your report? Nothing gets Mr. Mulroney out of the chair, that's for sure, Logan said. He takes bathroom breaks. He makes sandwiches to eat outside. He says he only needs 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. He's kind of a wingnut, and you know what? I like him a lot. Maybe I'm a wingnut, too. You think? Put in Darren in a voice that dripped with sarcasm. Oh, yeah, added Logan. He's really proud of the fact that even at his age, he still has 20/20 vision. Ben held his head. You sure there isn't anything else we need to know? Maybe his rocking chair has radar? No, that's pretty much it. Except the skylight. You can see it from Mr. Mulroney's porch, even at night. The street light reflects off the glass. Ben blew his stack. When were you planning on mentioning this? When the guy's dialing 911 on the heist night? We'll have to figure out a way to turn off the street light for a while, said Griffin. Now, Melissa, have you made any progress hacking into Swindle's email? Melissa parted her hair. Oh, that's already done. He has 2 addresses, one personal and one for business. They both run through the website he set up for his store. Every message he gets comes to my computer first. What we need, Griffin explained, is a time when it's safe to make our move. You know, a good 3 or 4 hour window when he'll definitely be out of the house. I didn't see anything like that. How about a weekend out of town? Ben persisted. A wedding or family reunion. Even a big fancy dinner in New York City. She shrugged. Not really. Most of his personal email is just spam. There was something from the New York Rangers Boosters Club and a notice from eGrocer that his 20-pound turkey had been shipped. Griffin was disgusted. Oh, sure. Like a nasty, obnoxious crook knows enough people willing to sit down and eat a 20-pound turkey with him. Oh, well, Logan reasoned. Thanksgiving isn't too far away. If you've got nothing better to do on a holiday than hang out with Swindle, Ben said sadly, you've got nothing to be thankful for. This is just peachy, Griffin moaned. We've got the perfect plan and no chance to try it because we can't get that jerk out of his house. Could we try it during the day when he's at the store? Savannah suggested. I thought of that, said Griffin. It's just too exposed. The ladder alone would stand out like a sore thumb. Darren laughed out loud. Bing, you're such a dope. This auction is going to come and go while you sit around waiting for him to go to the movies. Use your brain. If you want him to get out, get him out. Pitch was angry. We can't kidnap the guy. He sells sports memorabilia, Darren ranted. He's a Rangers fan. Buy him a ticket to a hockey game. Oh, yeah, Griffin seethed. Here's a little thank you gift for ripping us off. That'll work. Well, maybe we can mail it to him with a letter saying he won it as a prize, Savannah suggested. Griffin shook his head. He'd see through it in a second. You don't win a contest when you never even entered one. Darren was growing exasperated. Here's what you do. Stick the ticket in a birthday card with somebody else's name on the envelope and drop it in Swindle's mail slot like somebody delivered it to the wrong house. If this guy is as rotten as you say he is, he won't be able to resist the idea that he's cheating somebody out of a ticket. Of course he'll go to the game, and he'll stay to the last shot of the final period. Is that how your sick mind works? Pitch asked, revolted. No, Griffin said excitedly, but I think Darren's on to something. Griffin Bing and Darren Vader had never been friends. Griffin had accepted Darren on the team only because he had been blackmailed into it. He disliked Darren, but even worse, he didn't trust him, and in an operation like this, trust was everything. But now he was coming to understand that Darren brought a talent to the heist that even the boy himself didn't see. Darren was so awful he was actually capable of thinking just like Swindle.